Hello, fellow stackers. Cactus Jack here. One of our members, America Silver Patriot, has issued a challenge to the community called Calling All Patriots. And my understanding is that if you just have to read a portion of the Bill of Rights or the Constitution of the United States, and you're entered into a contest. So that's what I'm doing. And I've chosen to quote Thomas Jefferson to start out. It was probably one of the most famous lines from the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. 1776. As America pointed out, we're in a very challenging time in this country where I could go on and on about different rights that people feel are being infringed, like, privacy with all the surveillance we have now and the NSA listening in on our conversations, perhaps. We're certainly under fire on social media and even in public. If you say the wrong thing these days, even if there's nothing wrong with it, you're going to be called a racist or a Nazi immediately. That seems to be the knee-jerk reaction of people that want to argue with you. If you say all lives matter, that makes you a racist somehow. And maybe it's because I'm an old guy. I just don't get that. But we hold these truths to be self-evident. All men are created equal. That to me means all lives matter. And I don't mean to pick on just one group today or one facet of the problems in our society. But it seems like, our statues are being knocked down, and, Teddy Roosevelt's statue is going to be removed. He was the first president that invited a black man, Booker T. Washington, into the White House for dinner. And he and his family were subjected to, ostracized. They were ostracized for the rest of their lives, and they were tortured for doing that. And he stood by it. He was not somebody who backed down, that's for sure. He had a backbone that we could certainly use today. We could use more of it. Let me read some more quotes. The ordaining of laws in favor of one part of the nation to the prejudice and oppression of another is certainly the most erroneous and mistaken policy. An equal dispensation of protection, rights, privileges, and advantages is what every part is entitled to and ought to enjoy. Benjamin Franklin, Emblematical Representations, 1774. Another one. I can only say that there is not a man living who wishes more sincerely than I do to see a plan adopted for the abolition of slavery. George Washington, letter to Robert Morris, 1786. Now, none of these men were perfect. No, there isn't a perfect person on the face of the earth. Some of them were slave owners, and maybe they were that was an early phase of, saying something that you didn't really believe in just for popularity. I don't think that's the case here. We call it virtue signaling now. I don't think these guys were capable of that. Here's another one. It is much to be wished that slavery may be abolished. The honor of the states, as well as justice and humanity, in my opinion, loudly call upon them to emancipate those unhappy people, to contend for our own liberty, and to deny that blessing to others involves an inconsistency not to be excused. John Jay, letter to R. Lushington, 1786. As you probably know, many of the people who signed the Declaration of Independence, with few exceptions, they were sought out by the British, and a lot of them owned businesses that involved, commerce on the high seas, and they were driven into bankruptcy after that. Not too many people have written about that, I don't think. I happened to come across it years ago. I found it fascinating. They had a list of all the names of who signed the Declaration of Independence, and they had, little blurb next to each of their names, every one of them who had bankruptcy or, they were tortured by the British government for what even though the British government, lost and we declared our independence, they still came after us. They weren't happy with us. So these guys put their money where their mouths were. They didn't just, have this little meeting and sign things and do virtue signaling, so to speak. they put their lives at stake and their fortunes, and many of them lost their fortunes. So I think we need more backbone these days to stand up to people. The thing that really bothers me is not only are these statues being torn down, but our so-called leaders that we elected to protect us, they're encouraging this behavior. They're not only are they not punishing these people or using the law to protect these statues and to protect us, they're encouraging this behavior. I don't get it. I don't think the Founding Fathers would be too happy with us right now. So I'm capable of good rants, especially having grown up in Boston. I grew up in a living museum, so to speak. I walk to school. I walk along the Freedom Trail to get to school. I walk by the USS Constitution. I see plaques to Benjamin Franklin. Many of the Founding Fathers are buried in cemeteries in Boston that I walk by. Paul Revere, of course, rode through the streets warning us the enemy was coming, the British are coming, among other people. And, now the threat is from within. And I think that America's Silver Patriot is onto something here. And I think that as the 4th of July approaches, this is a good time to review our privileges and our rights, inalienable rights. And I think that we have to start standing up or we're going to lose them. I think the first thing is to get rid of the politicians who have sided with the terrorists, and that's what they are. They're terrorists. They take over these protests and they start looting and even killing people. And if they're not discouraged and something isn't done, well, they're not going to stop. They're emboldened by this behavior, and it's only going to get worse. We may be looking at the last 4th of July that we really celebrate as truly free people. I mean, a lot of our rights have already been infringed, as I said before, by big corporations like Google. Who'd have thunk it? Their loyalties aren't to America. Their loyalties are to their own pockets. And it's not just Google, there's others, but I think they're the most powerful. So anyway, that's my 2 cents on this 4th of July and the Bill of Rights and the Constitution. And I will put a link to America Silver Patriot in the description. And feel free, anybody who wants to read from the Bill of Rights or the Declaration of Independence, I think that he would accept that. And then you just email the video address to him, and that will also be in the description. All right? Thanks for listening, and happy 4th of July a little bit early. Thank you.